My name is Happy Black Legends, and welcome to today's discussion. This is an open forum. This is basically the equivalent of like a class discussion, like a class debate. Is this angle weird? Yo, my eyes look...
The ghetto!
Terrible. But I wanted to have a serious conversation about this topic because it's something that I feel like we don't talk about often enough as a what the hell, as a society, as a people. And that is ableism, specifically ableism and its history in horror as a genre. And what does that mean? What does that say? What does that reflect, you know, about people with mental illness? What kind of message are we sending about people with mental illnesses and disabilities when, you know, they are heavily used in a genre that represents trauma and pain and terror? What does that mean? You know what I mean? So let's have this discussion. I want to hear your guys' feedback from this. And I want to start off by saying I love horror as a genre. I think it's a very fascinating genre. But in a weird way, like, ableism is so ingrained in this genre. And it's really opened my eyes to, like, how deep enriched it is in this genre. And I wonder what, you know, what horror can look like in it, like, without ableism. Like, I'm so curious to see. And of course there are horror movies that don't rely on ableist tropes, of course. However, a lot of them do. So let's talk about it. Let's discuss. So the first thing, let's talk about the mental hospital asylum motif narrative. This theme, being consistent in horror, does a lot of things at once. Number one, it makes people afraid to go to mental hospitals, to go get help, because they're all portrayed as like bad places where you're gonna get trapped and stuck in. Number two, it a lot of the time, these asylum stories are based in like the 50s or 60s. There's like a vintage theme. So I feel like by portraying, you know, it as a vintage theme, it kind of makes it seem like electroshock therapy still happens today. like that's what I'm trying to say, I guess. That was the whole point. Like, there's still things that exist and can occur, you know, in mental hospitals across the globe that aren't, como se dice, great, you know? So next, I want to talk about the media's portrayal of very specific mental illnesses. So first of all, I want to talk about dissociative identity disorder. And this mental illness is misrepresented in so many ways. I remember this movie came out with the guy that plays Magneto. I have no idea what his name is. And I think it was called like Split or something. It was a big bowl of yikes for me. A lot of times, like, the media portrays people that struggle with this mental illness as like really dangerous and like unpredictable, when the truth of the matter is people with this, that struggle with, you know, DID, they're often at risk for being abused. And that's the case for a lot of people with mental illnesses and disabilities. Like, and that's the thing about horror kind of is shitty. Like, you're constantly portraying these people as terrible, as outcast, you know, deserving of no happy ending, when in reality, that's like their reality, and that's like not good. Like, we need to flip the narrative on that shit, you know? Also, like, freaking schizophrenia, oh my god, don't even get me started on that. Like, schizophrenia is just portrayed terribly in media, and it really confuses and baffles me. One thing that I don't understand, my mom is a writer. And so I don't understand when writers don't do the research? Like, why wouldn't you go meet with a clinical therapist or psychologist? Why wouldn't you go meet with people that have schizophrenia? Like, if I was writing, if I was writing a movie about someone that struggled with something that I have no experience dealing with firsthand, I would be going to support groups. I would be talking to people. I would really, really be trying to get educated on the issue. And it just seems like people do a quick Google search and call it a day, and they just keep it moving. And that's like really kind of whack to me when it comes to like the influence that a film can have. I just think that's really dangerous to you should take that more seriously. You know what I mean? People like to say that fiction is fiction, when in reality, fiction does impact our society. Fiction and then like psychopaths versus sociopaths. So, just a quick explanation. First of all, no one is diagnosed as a sociopath. I believe it's antisocial personality disorder. Like, psychopaths are born and sociopaths are made. That's typically the difference. So, there you go. And the truth of the matter is, there are a lot of psycho and sociopaths in the workforce. A lot of psychopaths especially make great CEOs, they make great leaders, and they make great politicians and lawyers, and there's many professions where those people have certain talents that will help them to excel and, really succeed and thrive in that, field of work. And so my point is, like, not all psychopaths are like out here trying to kill people. Like, a lot of psychopaths just are living their lives. They're just trying to get by like everybody else. And I just think it's crazy that, there's this constant narrative that's being spun. And and again, being a horror lover, I have to reflect on myself and ask myself, am I, allowing horror to warp my view on people with certain disabilities and mental illnesses? Am I allowing that to happen? And I think that's important to ask yourself, to be self-critical. I try to be self-critical. And I think that's just because I've been in therapy like for most of my life. And it's just a skill that has been drilled into me and has taken literally years to perfect. And sometimes your girl is too self-critical. So it's a balance. It's something I am working on and will probably continue to work on for a while. So next I want to talk about body horror, specifically people with like skin issues. These characters in these films are usually the antagonist. What comes to mind for me is Freddy Krueger. That's like the biggest example that comes to mind when I think of like a body horror villain, and oftentimes, they're portrayed as gross and bad and disgusting. But my point is, like, that's a very shitty feeling, especially because, like, oftentimes, like, skin issues, like, there's nothing wrong with, like, having shitty skin. Like, it's just skin. Like, there's just nothing wrong with it. Like, some days you're gonna have zits and, like, I picked at my skin. I have a shit ton of skin issues. Look at my dark circles. Like, your girl looks like a mess, okay? But we're human, and that's okay. The craziest thing to me about, like, horror and ableism, and I think I'm gonna end on this note, is the fact that people with disabilities are rarely represented in film and media. And this is something that, again, I had to check my privilege, because when I read this statistic, I was like, huh. And then I sat there and thought about, okay, I was like, how many characters with disabilities can I name? And, like, literally 3 came to mind, and that was it. Like, 3. And that was it. And, like, that's no bueno, baby. That's not good. But get this. The genre that has the most representation for people with disabilities is horror. And that's sending a terrible message to society and to people. That's sending a message that people with disabilities are meant to be terrified. And that's really fucking shitty. And I think ableism, the thing about ableism that's so fucked up is that I feel like ableism is sort of allowed to like seep and creep through. I feel like ableism oftentimes just goes so unrecognized, and people still use the R slur like all the time, and it makes no sense to me, like absolutely. I don't get that. Like, I learned when I was like 7 that was a bad word. What are y'all people doing? Like, oh my god. But anyways, y'all, that is my little think piece. I had this idea for this video like early on in like when I was planning Vlogoween. So it's been interesting to like finally, you know, get it all out, because these thoughts have been brewing inside of me for like months, but it just took me a really long time to find the wording. And even now, like that I'm filming, I'm afraid that like my wording is still really awkward and it won't be properly understood or portrayed. So hopefully, you know, I do spark some interesting conversation. What do you guys think about ableism and horror? What do you guys think about the fact that horror as a genre, you know, represents people with disabilities more than other genres do? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm really eager to know. I would also really love to know what your guys' favorite Vlogoween video has been thus far. Please let me know down in the comments below. It would really make my day. Other than that, y'all, I'm gonna get going. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I really fucking appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. And I will see you in the next one. Alrighty, y'all. Bye.